What's going on, people? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we'll pretty much be talking about match day 23 of the Premier League. We'll be discussing how some of the teams fared this weekend. Obviously, I will not be including Liverpool versus Everton, not just because, partly because the game is boring, but secondly because I don't see it as a weekend game. This is going to be a weekend roundup moving forward. So let's start with Arsenal. Arsenal. If you can't tell by my disappointment, I'm clearly an Arsenal fan. I think that game was tactically, let's break the game down tactically. Arsenal approached the game with the normal 4-3-3, with the back four of Zinchenko, Gabriel Magalhaes, William Saliba, Ben White. We had Thomas Partey in midfield with Granit Xhaka, Odegaard, Martinelli, Eddie Nketiah, Bukayo Saka. Let's talk about the game. First of all, Brentford. I think their game plan was fantastic. I think even though they came to defending, counter-attack, that's pretty much the treatment Arsenal are going to start getting. You know, in your top team, you start getting that treatment, that Manchester City treatment, as I call it. The type of treatment where teams just come to the Emirates and just park the bus and play on the counter. Because the only way you can think of getting a result against Arsenal. And it's working, unfortunately. I think early in the season, most teams treated Arsenal like they did in the past, where they would go toe-to-toe against them and try and rattle them. It didn't work. Our teams are showing more respect to Arsenal and are now deciding to park the bus and to defend and to stay more resolute. The game was a good game, in my opinion. I think the game had a good tempo, good flow. But Arsenal, there are just certain players at the moment that are not really up for it, in my opinion. I think Gabriel Martinelli might be struggling because of the lack or the absence of Gabriel Jesus. And no disrespect to Eddie Nketiah, but Eddie Nketiah does not do what Gabriel Jesus does. And I think the person who was benefiting the most from Gabriel Jesus, I think it was Martinelli. Because right now you can see that his performances have dropped, his goals have dropped. In my opinion, I think the game against Man City, I think he needs to be dropped. I think Trossard needs to start that game. I think Trossard has just scored a goal. I think he's got the confidence now to kick on. And Martinelli will have to fight for his space again. Another player who I think has been struggling, I think it's Odegaard. I think Odegaard is not as, how do I say, he doesn't have the keys to the City anymore, man. It's like he can't unlock defenses as he once could in the beginning of the season. I think now it seems like it's getting harder and harder for him to unlock defenses, if that makes sense. Because Bukayo Saka is getting that superstar treatment. He's getting 2-3 people mocking him. Therefore, is no longer an option. Odegaard doesn't really make shots outside the box, so it's a tricky thing now. With Odegaard, I think he has to find a solution, in my opinion. I think tactically, I think Brentford were better. I think they moved the ball better in midfield. The interesting thing is that they changed their formation to facilitate for Arsenal's midfield. So they decided to, in a way, imitate Burnley, but also implement their style at the same time. So they played their normal 3-5-2 with Tony and Mbeumo up front, playing long balls. Tony puts it down for Mbeumo, and so on and so forth. And it seems like more and more teams are beginning to flood the midfield against Arsenal. I think it's an option for teams now. I just watched Manchester City not so long ago. We'll get onto them later. But they packed the midfield as well today against Aston Villa. I highly doubt that Pep will do something similar against Arsenal. I doubt it, but it's an interesting way of playing, because when they flood the midfield, make it hard for Arsenal to move the ball around. And I think, obviously, I've heard some people saying that this is the time for Arsenal to crumble. Highly doubt that. I think the teams that Arsenal have struggled against are the teams that are willing to park the bus. question is every team in the Premier League willing to park the bus against Arsenal? I doubt it though. Highly doubt it. It's not a good enough reason to say that Arsenal will not lose more games in the future. They might lose more games in the future, but I think the performances have been decent. I think the performance against Everton was bad. The performance against Brentford was good enough. Yeah, apparently there are issues with the referees not drawing lines with the VAR. Brentford could have been offside. I don't know, man. It is what it is. I think everyone gets robbed in the Premier League. It's incompetence, in my opinion, but it is what it is. Now, the question is, where can Arsenal improve now? Now, I think Arsenal, improvement-wise, I think, firstly in personnel, I think Martinelli needs to be taken out. Trossard needs to start, in my opinion. I think Martinelli needs a rest maybe for 2 or 3 games. And maybe Ben White, maybe. Because at the moment, he's looking a bit shaky at times. You know, playing against Grealish, who's going to dive all over the place. I think Tomiyasu should start that game against Manchester City. And other than that, I think that's it in terms of personnel. Tactically, I think Arteta, I think in-game, he needs to make better decisions. Not to say that he's not making good decisions, no, that's what I'm saying. But I think in-game, there are times when teams, when there's a low block and clearly running out of options or running out of time, I think Arteta needs to put on the substitutions much faster, in my opinion. I think people like Fabio Vieira needs to improve. He needs to be better when he comes on. He needs to take his opportunity. Let's go on to Manchester City. So Manchester City today played 3 defenders, which is rare from a Pep Guardiola team. This team today had 3 defenders, had a midfield diamond of 4, right? And then an attacking 3. So now, this formation, it has its risks and rewards. The risks is on transition. They'll be left short because they don't have any natural wing backs. They don't have anyone who's willing to help them defend in transition. I saw today that who was it on the left hand side? I think it was Akanji and Jack Grealish on Bernardo. There was a lot of space in behind. So now I'm thinking if Bukayo Saka is playing on that side, he's going to have more opportunities, he's going to have more chances in that area of the pitch. That's why I think it's. But in terms of the reward, if they play such a formation against Arsenal, they get to flood the midfield. It sort of becomes like a 4v4 because Arsenal technically play with the midfield 4 with Zinchenko. So that's going to be an interesting battle if Pep plays such a formation. I highly doubt he will. Because even today, though they scored 3 goals, they did not look convincing in certain spells of the game. There were some parts of the game where they were shaky, they were losing the ball. And I don't think Bernardo Silva, I don't think it's a good idea to allow Bernardo Silva to play right next to Rodri in that diamond and the lower base of that midfield square or diamond, if you call it. I don't think it's a good idea because defensively he's not good, and I don't think that's where you want him to be controlling the ball. He's not been playing as well as he could lately, but it is what it is. Now Manchester City have an opportunity now to go top of the table on Wednesday if they beat Arsenal. Obviously that would be on goal difference, but Arsenal have an opportunity to go 6 points clear. Now Arsenal have not been doing well in the last 5 games. I think in all competitions they have lost 3 games out of the last 5. They are not looking good, and I think Manchester City will be really up for this game, and I think they'll be looking at this as a really big opportunity to not only lay a statement but also go top of the table. I think if they go top, it's going to be hard. On other news, Rashford scores again. Yeah, I think this guy is, I don't know, what should you call it? This guy just keeps scoring, man. I don't know what Ten Hag is doing with this guy, but he just keeps scoring. And I think I have a question. Are Man United in the title race? It seems like Man United fans keep dodging the question. Are Man United in the title race? Or why is it that many Man United fans are afraid to say? Just the question. But other than that, I think Ten Hag has done a fantastic job. I mean, in his first season, they're pretty much third, 3 points behind Manchester City, 6 behind Arsenal, if I'm not mistaken. That's really impressive, considering where Manchester United were last season. I think he's done a fantastic job. I think those two defenders, Varane and Lisandro, Casemiro right in front of them, Rashford, I think those 4 players have been the prime reason why they are in the position that they're in. So imagine now, the biggest problem that Man United have right now, in my opinion, is that Rashford pretty much seems like he's a main goal threat, which is not good enough in my opinion to win the league. I don't think it's enough. It's sufficient, because you look at other teams, other players are scoring the goals. Because who's to say that Rashford will score these goals next season? So players like Anthony, I think we need to have a conversation about this Martial guy. I think Man United need to sell this guy. I don't know why Man United fans keep defending this guy. He's a flop, with all due respect. Yeah, but I think in terms of Man United, there's a lot of, it's looking good. For a first season, it's fantastic. But I think there's certain parts that need to be added. Number one, replacement for Casemiro, because a drop off from Casemiro to McTominay it's night and day. Man United need more goal threat. They need more players scoring more and more goals. Anthony is his first season, I'll give him time, but he needs to add the goals as well. Sancho just came back. Hopefully he can add more goals. Martial, I think they should just sell him. I think Man United need to buy a new striker. I've been told by many Man United fans that this guy is talented and all that, but I barely see it, man. So I think they should just sell that guy and bring in a better striker than him. Some Man United fans are saying Osimhen. I don't know. It is what it is. And Eriksen was never meant to be starting week in, week out. He was meant to be a utility player on the bench. But now he's starting most of the games. He's injured now, but before his injury, he was starting most of the games. Sabitzer was supposed to enter the club not because of Eriksen's injury. He was supposed to enter regardless. I think he's a good addition. I think if they can make the transfer permanent, it will be good for them. But I think Eriksen should not be playing week in, week out, because there are some games where he struggles. He gets out. So I think they need 2 more midfielders, in my opinion, and a striker. Well, My United fans will have to tell me what else they need in their team, but I think they're doing really well right now. Chelsea Football Club. You know what? To be fair, Chelsea were robbed in the game against West Ham. I'm not gonna lie. I think I watched the game. I was very impressed of how Chelsea were playing. I think they played a 4-2-3-1 with the back four of Cucurella, Bereshile, Thiago Silva, Reece James, midfield 2 of Enzo Fernandez, Loftus-Cheek. Right in front of them was João Felix on the left, Mikhailo Mudryk on the right. It was Madueke, and up front it was Kai Havertz. I think in that first half, that first 30 minutes of that game, I think they played some of the best football I've seen them play this whole season. They were moving the ball side to side. Enzo was bringing balls. It looked good, right? It looked amazing. But I think there are certain players in that Chelsea team that either need to improve or need to leave. I think Mikhailo Mudryk struggled in that game because of Cucurella. I think Cucurella was not passing him the ball. Cucurella kept passing backwards. So I'll give Mikhailo Mudryk a bit of time. I think Madueke looks good. I think he needs more time. That's the thing with this Chelsea signings. Most of them are young players that need time anyway, which is crazy. Spending almost more than $500 million on players, but then we're saying we need to give them time. That's crazy. But I think Enzo Fernandez is a fantastic player. I think the mistake that Chelsea should not make with Enzo Fernandez is playing him as a number 6. He's not a DM. He's an 8. So I think Chelsea do need another midfielder. They need a natural number 6. I think Chelsea might be going for Caicedo or Declan Rice. They need a natural 6 because Enzo is not a 6. He's an 8. He likes being more advanced in the third phase of the game. I think Loftus-Cheek played well. I think another player, just like Martial, I don't know why Chelsea fans defend this guy. Kai Havertz, man. Nah, this Kai Havertz, bro. Why do Chelsea fans keep defending this guy, man? What position does he play, actually? Is he a striker? Is he a false 9? Every time I see this guy play, I'm not convinced, man. I'm not impressed. I think that Fofana guy needs to get more game time. I don't think Havertz is the guy, in my opinion. Yeah, 72 million. People don't talk much about that, actually. That's a lot of money for a player. For you not to even know what position he's good at. That's crazy. So I think Chelsea played well, but they were robbed. They were supposed to have a penalty.
As no, I promise, like, and even it's been a weird these past few months, and knowing out.
You know, VAR, I don't know anymore, man. I think there's a conspiracy with VAR. I feel like VAR is just there to make it look more interesting. I'm telling you, bro, to give teams more talking points. Because how is it that most football people with the footballing ideologies can see that was a penalty, that Sucha clearly touched it with his hand? How is it that many of us are able to tell and say that was a clear and obvious penalty, but the referees, the professionals, those that are working, getting paid, could not see that was a penalty? I don't like Chelsea. I don't care if Chelsea get robbed or not, but VAR is a problem, because that could happen to my team. In fact, my team was robbed. That's why I think VAR needs a solution, in my opinion. But it is always Tottenham Hotspur. Should I even talk about this team, man? Like, 4-1. After beating Manchester City, you lose 4-1 to Leicester. Respect to Leicester, they played well, but 4-1. Nah, I don't think I should waste your time talking about Tottenham. I think Tottenham need their own segment, man. They need their own time. Yeah, I think we'll need to find another time to talk about them. But other than that, thank you guys for watching the video. Please like, subscribe, catch me on the future videos.